Welcome to Film and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. We are excited to have you all join us and to be joined by Manoj, Chandra. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Tell us where you're joining us from.
I'm in Houston right now, Houston, Texas. This is where I'm based at the moment.
Awesome. Delighted. And I'm here in California, so we're trying to almost be intercontinental here. You had an amazing career, literally crisscrossing the globe between India and the US and doing lots of films, and now also doing your own films. So I can't wait to just sort of unpack how you got interested in film and how you got started. Do you feel comfortable kind of like taking us back to the beginning, where your interest got sparked from, who inspired you?
Definitely, Marsh. But I actually come from a part of India which basically preaches cinema. I remember the times when I grew up in my city. We used to have people lining up outside the cinemas for 3 days before the film's release, and movies used to run for more than 100 days to 365 days. Yeah, so we're literally talking about people preaching actors and preaching stars, and I'm not exaggerating. This might sound exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating. There is a temple on of an actor in India.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how crazy it is. So I pretty much grew up in this environment right from the beginning. And what happened was I ended up being inspired by a lot of other actors and stuff. And movies were a thing for me to just watch. It never kind of hit me up that I could be part of one at any given point, because it was, it was a larger than life kind of a thing. And for sure there's something which is kind of impossible. There's something which is kind of impossible because it's so huge. Watching these actors on these big screens is such a big thing for us. I mean, getting tickets to the cinemas is such a hard job. So being part of one is, it kind of seemed impossible at that time. But I don't know. I think it was the time when I was 17. I hit 17, and I was transitioning from high school to college. And I had some 6-8 months. And at this time, I didn't want to waste time. So I was taking out the newspapers, old school stuff, looking at what jobs could I do, and I did a sales job for a day maybe. and then the next day I looked at this audition. And in the city I'm from, film productions usually don't come. It's very rare for a film production to come because it was in the LA of India.
Sure.
But so seeing something, I was like, wow, there's something interesting. Let me just email them maybe. And then I emailed them. I heard back from them. They gave me a scene from the famous actor Amitabh Bachchan, and then I performed it in the audition. I didn't hear back from them for 2 months, and 2 months I kept calling back, and I just kept being hanged up. And then 2 months later, I heard back from them. They're like, hey, you know what? We're offering you this role. And that ended up being my first entry to the film industry when I was 17 years old. And I ended up sharing screen space with the legendary actors of India, actors who award-winning actors who have worked more than 1,000 films. I'm talking about actors I grew up watching. So these are people I shared screen space with. But trust me, it wasn't an easy journey after that.
Yeah. Had you had any formal training, or then did you do formal training after you had this opportunity? Because a lot of times you do hear that people feel like, gosh, this is a great opportunity, but I'm really going to hone my craft if I haven't had time by the age of 17.
Right. So this is what happened. After that, I kind of saw how improv works on that set. That first film, it kind of gave me an idea on how actors improv on sets and everything. And then the next film was a short film because I was still in college. And then I actually decided I would never do a film after my first film. The reason being, I had this fear of camera at that time. I didn't like being on the spot. I was like, I'm never going to do this. Mm-hmm. But in college, someone hit me up and they were like, hey, you know what? We need to do a short film. I saw your film and you did great. And I'm like, this is college. You can't reject someone. They're giving you that, they're giving you that space, and they're like, you're the lead. So I do the short film. I see the short film. I was like, wait a second, this one's really good. Like, how am I acting so well? And then I re-accessed everything, and then I realized I had a lot of camera fear. And then in the short film, which just had 3 people on the set, I was able to act because I was just being myself. I was just, being in my comfortable shoes. So
Sure.
after that, I kind of started I started working in a TV show. It's called Ma TV. I did a primetime show called V Star. It was a celebrity chat show. I had the biggest celebrities of India. I did 40 plus episodes in that for 4 years, all during college.
Right.
So being in front of camera, sharing space with a lot of other actors, celebrities, and stuff, it kind of made me at ease to the camera. I started losing that fear. I kind of started forgetting there's a camera in the room.
Sure. Right.
And then I started picking up that skill eventually. And then when I started doing indie films, people started like, "Hey, where did you pick this from?" And I'm like, no, this just kind of happened on its own. I didn't really, I mean, trust me, I haven't really thought about this. I didn't lay a plan in my head. I'm gonna do, host shows, and then I'm gonna do film. Now, I didn't plan it; just happened that way. But the process kind of helped me a lot. And after that, after I came to the US, that's when I started taking acting classes. I've been taking a lot of acting classes, and to be honest, in India we don't really have a lot around acting classes and stuff. Yes, we do have it, but it's not that strong. People never push. The 90% of the actors don't take are not really taking a lot of training. That's not because people are usually picking it up from the real life.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. So after I moved here, it was very strange for me. I didn't know what's a headshot. I didn't know what's, what are these trainings about? You have commercial acting. Yeah. Things are like this. It took me 6 months to sink in and understand things, basically. But then after that, I kind of started taking acting classes to tune my skills and make my acting tune up from Bollywood to Hollywood. I wanted to present myself well to the Hollywood screen, because for us, we act 10 times the acting you guys do here. The emotions are more.
I also wanted to get into just a little bit about, and you were hinting at it here, just some of that transition, because I think it's something people take so for granted. Oh, you just get on a plane and you just come to the US, and maybe you did have family here, but how did that transition go for you, and kind of what helped the decision to come?
Okay, to be honest, when I moved to the United States, I moved amidst the pandemic. So even before moving, I had no idea on how what I'm going to do after coming here. I really didn't know if I'm going to still pursue my acting career, because I don't know if a guy like me who looks like me, of my skin, would be able to, get gigs and stuff. So this was, I kind of felt my acting career is going to be, it's over. That's what I thought at that point. But then since I had family and then during the pandemic, I couldn't do films there as well. Everything was shut down. So I kind of moved. 6 months later, I started putting myself in places. I started networking. I started to understand. And then I kind of started understanding that, hey, wait, there is a space for me as well. And then I think less than a year after I moved here, I did my first big film, Christmas in Miami, which has now ended up being 2021's highest grossing film in Africa. And it also ended up being one of the top 10 highest grossing films ever made in Africa.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think in terms of giving advice to someone else who's going to make this type of transition? What advice would you give to them? Because like you said, you're coming from India, where while a lot of movies are made, it's a totally different world. You're coming to the US during the pandemic, which is certainly itself a tremendous hurdle. And then you're going into a field where essentially you really weren't known in the US for all the work you had done.
Absolutely. I think digital space is the whole thing about, getting to know anything. I mean, ever since I've come here, everything happened through the digital space, like getting from my first gig to even connecting with you or even doing this interview. It's all happening digitally.
Right.
It's the thing of the past that, you need to know someone and then he needs to know somebody, and then
Right.
you network. No, I think there's this power of the internet which is beautiful, and I think this is the best time for an actor to stay at home and be an actor.
Right. Tell us about the current project that you're working on and some of your bigger goals.
Oh, yes. So I have one interesting project which I just signed. It's called Men in Blue. Men in Blue is an interesting project which is going to be okay. So basically, in 2007, a lot of Indian immigrants actually came in as to work on the ships which were affected by Hurricane Katrina.
Okay.
So these Indian immigrants who came back in that time, they were with the contracting companies exploited them, and they ended up being and living in very bad conditions, not being able to, get the right food, or they were basically exploited, just like how Indian immigrants are exploited in other countries, just like that. So there was a huge revolt which happened at that time. They kind of protested, they walked on streets, they kind of did the necessary steps, and everything got fixed up later. But there's this, so this film is about what these immigrants could have gone through at that time inside these ships and inside this whole camp area where they're working. So I play one of the immigrant guy. His name is Ali. He comes from the town called Vizag, and he speaks Telugu. What's the craziest thing is I come from Telugu. I come from the same city. I speak the same language, and I basically fit into his skin like that. So it's I think that's one script that was written for me. I'm about to share screen space with someone who won the Best Actor Award and also won the Best Film in 2015 in Cannes.
Wow.
Yes, he is Anthony. He's going to be here in Texas next month. He lives in France. He settled in France. He is an amazing person, and I'm really looking forward to working with him. Yeah.
No, you have an amazing story. We call this segment Film and Medicine because a lot of times there's sort of like a health component for you. Like when we were discussing, a lot of it seems to have been this tremendous transition, like we said, at a time where COVID was sort of, literally had taken over the world. What types of things do you feel that you've sort of learned now being in the US, because you hinted at some of it, with respect to being from another country, being appreciated, and really being able to sort of settle in and hone your craft and pursue your love?
Absolutely. America is a land of opportunities, and I will write it in bold letters everywhere I see. That's exactly what I think. And with what I've had back home, we weren't digitalized at that. Even now, we're not that digitalized how the United States is. You definitely need to know someone offline, and everything runs offline. You need to stay in the city and meet people, network, and do things in person. But I don't know if it's because of COVID or if the United States has already adapted to the digital world or what is going on, or my timing is good. But everything is working out digitally. For me, I mean, I'll be honest with you, this Netflix film, which, I mean, the Christmas in Miami, the film which is now in cinemas, I'll tell you the story, how I got it. So I believe in the law of attraction very strongly. I feel something, if I believe that something is going to happen, that will happen. I have to, but you need to strongly believe in this thought. So in 2020 April, it was my wife's birthday, and we went to Miami. And the minute I got down in Miami, I looked outside the car window. I'm like, wait a second, Miami looks so beautiful. I want to make something here. I don't know if I'm going to direct it, write it, or act. I don't know what, but I'm going to do a film here. And I started thinking and doing everything what I need to do. I didn't know anybody in Miami. I had no idea who. I had no friends even in all of Florida. Right. So what I did was I added myself in the Facebook groups in Miami, as all the acting groups and filmmaker groups of Florida.
Sure.
And then I think a month later, I see this casting call, which had an Indian role in it.
Right.
I'm like, wow, this is interesting.
Sure.
At this time, I hate to say this, I didn't have a headshot.
I'll tell buddy.
Yeah, because I didn't know what it was. I
Right,
seriously
right.
didn't know what a headshot was. You can't blame me for this.
Right, we can't, right.
Yeah, but
use it.
but I had a demo reel which had all my acting in Bollywood back home. So I kind of had that, which kind of sold myself. And then they didn't even need an audition. They looked at my demo reel. They're like, "Come to the set. I'll see you there on set." So I think the digital space is very much underutilized. I think actors need to tap in every other space. You beat Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, you name it, you have it. Even IMDb Pro is such a golden space. I feel, you have email addresses of each and every network. Like you name it, you have it. So I don't think it's no more hard for someone to go and reach out and connecting to people. So if that's being played well, I've had a startup before. I ran a small business back in India, and it was a digital business, and I understand how this digital connecting people and doing all the email stuff, scheduling Zoom calls, and all of this. How if you're good at that, you can do anything in this era, at least in 2022.
Sure. No. It adds up. And your tenacity, your fervor, and also your enthusiasm is infectious. I love it. I love hearing the passion, because that's something I think some may be related to your youth, but also something that I hope you always hold on to, because one shouldn't get jaded. As you stated, there's tremendous opportunity and you've proven it. I mean, you were just happening to visit a city, and the next thing you get to work on a film there, and you didn't know anybody in that city. And
exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was surreal for me to sit in that set, and I'm like, wait, 2 months before, it was my first time in the city. Like, right. How did this happen?
Right. And you're thousands of miles from home. Where can we find you and see more of your work and learn more about what you're up to, Chandra?
Absolutely. So Christmas in Miami is on the 26th of February. We're doing an American premiere. So it's coming to the United States all the way from Nigeria. We're having all the actors fly to Houston, the place where I live in, and we're having a grand red carpet event here in Regal Cinemas. So I will send you the invite, and anybody who are in Houston or who are in the nearby cities love to watch Christmas in Miami and have a good time with their family, they can walk in, and also we will have the after party with the stars. Yeah. So
nice.
other than that, I think the movie is signed to be in the theaters till March. It released for Christmas. I didn't expect it to stay till March. We thought, maybe after Jan or Feb, we'll be having it on some platform. But I'm sorry, at least we have to wait until March until it comes online. So yeah, that's one. But the rest of the films which I worked so far, my Indian films, they're all on streaming on platforms like Amazon. I have one on Hotstar, which is Hulu in the United States. There's one in Netflix actually. So yeah, I pretty much have covered all the streaming platforms so far. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely been a pleasure. I want to send a big shout out to Ralph Celestin, who pulled us together and connected us digitally. Although I've had a chance to hang out with him in person, it's been cool. And Rise Celestial Studios and the work that they're doing to not only support independent filmmakers like yourself, but also promote some of the work that they're doing, and some of the projects they have coming up are amazing. So thank you so much for enjoying, giving us some of your time to enjoy.
Absolutely.
Like I said,
thank you so much for having me. I love your energy, and I love talking about this. I hope I somehow inspire people through this show, and have people do a lot of more and more work. And I just hope that I inspired someone today.
Yes, I think if I left it with one more positive note, since you've been so upbeat, where do you think some of that may come from? That, I really look at the more positive side of life, the more positive side of coming to the country and starting in film. Do you feel like, gosh, this stems from my family, it stems from the opportunities, it just stems from my perspective? Where do you feel your happiness exudes from?
I think this is how it is. So I moved these many seas. I crossed the seven seas to come to the United States, and now I'm sitting here. I'm like, wait a second. I've come so far. I need to do something. I mean, I better do something. I would rather, stay back at home and do something else than, come here. So I'm like, so every day I wake up and every day when I sleep, I'm accountable to myself. I need to answer myself that, hey, Manoj, you came here, you better do something, right?
I love that. Yeah, no, and sometimes I'll end it on that note. I have had some mentors that have said, I compete with myself, which I feel like I hear you saying. And when you say I hold myself accountable, and that's a really good bar. Again, especially if you don't beat yourself up too badly, to just stay positive and stay upbeat, and continue to press forward. Thanks again so much. So much fun.
Absolutely, Manoj. Thank you.
All the best.